to our final speaker before the lunch is served. He's a product designer, founder of designops.bg, UX Report, and FYOM journal, and a true design generalist. He will take us to a future that is already here, where the interface shrinks to a word and a gesture or a behavior, and where UX designers work more with expectations and context than with screens. Super. I'm going to greet him with a typical Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fist bump and leave him to be all yours. Enjoy.
Okay, the view from here is quite different, so I hope I'm not gonna die within the next 15 minutes. So where is Jimmy? Jimmy, thanks for the invitation. Once again, it's a great honor for me to share the stage with my ex-teammates and my colleagues and talk about design in a room full of designers. So there is a surprise. I've changed the presentation in the last week so that I can be absolutely sure that you're listening to me and what I'm trying to say. So today I'm going to talk about frameworks, design processes, methodologies, how we can be more confident and mature when we have to pick the right design process in the very early beginning of our challenges. So it's a model. It's a simple visualization that you can easily use in your practice. As you know, today we produce more. We produce more ideas. We produce more prototypes, data, and outputs. AI has made it easier to generate results, but not that easy to know what works or don't. Design used to be about creating clarity, but now it feels like we are constantly chasing and reacting to change. We have to adopt new tools, new ways of working. So it's really hard to say what to do when it comes to making that first mature steps in our process. Years ago, I found a model that helped me make sense of complex situations. It's called Canevin. And I use this model to talk with my colleagues and teammates to how to be more efficient in the very early romantic phase of each design task or product initiative or anything like this. So, Canevin is a lovely word. The model borrows this word because it's all about adapting to new environments. And the creator of this model is Dave Snowden. I'm not going to introduce Dave because you can easily find him on social medias and learn more. For today's presentation, I'm going to use this depiction, this visualization of the model, and it's like a kid's game. The goal we have is to move the challenge we have at hand, our product initiative, if you will, from the center to one of the other 4 domains. You have to know that you always start from the center, from the confused domain. It's a place in which we don't want to be. So you have to take the task from there and just place it to one of the other domains. I'm going to use the word domain for this presentation. So in the next couple of slides, there is I'll go through super quickly through these slides so that I can give you a glimpse of how this model looks like, and then I'll just go back and jump into details and try to explain every domain. So the first domain is the clear domain. It's all about using best practices. So if we have a challenge in the middle and then place that challenge into the clear domain, that means we need to use best practices. The second domain is the complicated one, which is all about good practices. I'm going to give you more details in a minute. Then we have the complex domain, which is all about experimentation. And finally, the chaotic domain, which is based on novel practices. So let's start with the first domain, which is the clear one. As I mentioned, it's all about best practices, which means that we need to use best practices or industry standards so that we can save some time and invest that time in other parts of the product. It's all about using the well-known, this purple bubble in the bottom, which is a big design up front. Closely related to the waterfall mode of working, which means we need to have a specification or a quick brief, base our next moves on that brief or technical specification, and then create a prototype. And after that, we have the implementation, testing, and supporting phase, which is the maintenance of our task. But most importantly, how we manage, how we operate within that domain. It's by coordinating the knowledge we have. Because if we use a task placed in the clear domain and use a best practices or industry standards, that means we are the experts. We are the designer or the people who know exactly what need to do so that we can move forward. We need to coordinate the knowledge we have. We don't have to collaborate or just ask people for advices. The only thing we need to do is just to use these best practices and do whatever we need to do so that we can achieve the goal at hand or your objective, for example. That's why usually the people who are working or designers in this domain, the expertise they have to have is let's say a junior designer or a mid-level designer, because these guys, we expect from them to use a well-curated list of best practices or industry standards and just use them to achieve whatever they are going to achieve. And of course, the communication should be clear, must be clear or just direct with our colleagues or teammates. Good. Here is a simple depiction of how we usually act and move in this domain. It's by just writing the brief or having the implementation brief, then move to the next step, which is the single design solution, and finally just build and ship the task. Here is a couple of examples how we can use AI to speed up that process. You already know that we can use AI to just build super fast prototypes, for example. But these prototypes must be based on best practices and industry standards. Good. The second domain is the complicated one. If we decide, based on our personal opinion, or sense or feeling, how to work on a specific task and just move that challenge from the confused domain to the complicated one, that means we need to use a list of good practices. In contrast, the main difference between the best and good practices is that you have a list of multiple possible good solutions to your problem, and you need to find which solution works well in your specific situation. So how we are going to do that is by adding research. You have to add a research so that you can be more confident about what you are going to achieve. It's like collecting raw signals, then transforming them into insights, and then based on these insights, you can generate some recommendations, for example. Yes, here is the process. Who is familiar with the double diamond? I'm absolutely sure all of you. Yes. Double diamond, it's not dead. It's here to stay for a while, at least, but we need to just use it in specific situations. So here is the process of double diamond. We have a problem discovery, problem definition, solution discovery, and final prototype. And most importantly, how we manage, how we operate, how we navigate our challenges that are placed into the complicated domain is by cooperating. You don't have to coordinate your knowledge with other people. You have to cooperate with them. How we do this is by inviting experts in your workflow or task, which is quite different than compared to the clear domain, because we have a coordination, now we have a cooperation. And because we have to cooperate with people, This means that the expertise of these experts should be more mature, like senior designers or lead designers or somebody who is more principal. We expect from these people to be more mature, know how to run a proper research, how to navigate through that research, add one more phase to the process, and then produce something, at least. By the way, for a comparison within a clear domain, we have the waterfall model of working. And in a contrast into the complicated domain, we have a hybrid way of working, which means that if we find a good insight, something new, we can easily decide to go one step back. We can go back. But still, this is still a linear approach, way of working. We are still going forward. And yes, the communication style is, you have to listen for conflicting advices. Because you're inviting people who are more mature, who act as an experts, and usually these guys are super confident when they have to deal with something. Like inviting a developer, for example, he's gonna be like, okay, I know how to solve this problem. I'm gonna fix it within a week or day or month or you name it. So you're in charge as a designer to listen for these conflicting advices and just make a list. And based on the raw facts and insights, you can generate some recommendations that's going to help you build the prototype you need to move forward in that linear process. There we are, the double diamond. On the left side, we have, I'm absolutely sure that you're familiar with the double diamond, but there is a two diamonds. On the first diamond, we have the problem discovery and definition. And on the second diamond, you have the solution discovery and prototyping, the final, I don't know, a prototype or whatever. So why diamonds? Because there is a converging and diverging thinking. We need to diverge to multiple possible solutions and then decide what to, for example, if we base our thinking on, if we use a user interviews and just gather some data and analyze the data with the help of AI, then you can easily define what's the problem of your product, of your business, of maybe your users, and then start sketching and then prototyping. Okay. Now, the third domain is the complex one. So, before I jump into the details and explain what's going on there, I would like to say something that is super important to have in mind when you're working and placing tasks here and there. It's that on the right side of that model, you have two domains, the clear one and the complicated one, that have a super clear cause that leads to a specific effect. There is a clear relationships. That's why we are using linear processes. On the left side, there is a complex and chaotic domains that they don't have that clear, super clear relationship between the cause that leads to a specific effect. That's why we don't have to be super confident when we are working on a specific tasks. We need to run experiments. This is why we have two new purple bubbles there, the Scrum and the Lean UX approach. We are increasing complexity. And if we place something there, you don't have to be confident because you're going to fail. For sure. There is a random chance of success. So, the main difference is that we are going to use the iterative process. So it's not a linear anymore. We are going in cycles. How we do this is by creating MVPs. minimum viable products or minimum viable features. Then we are running the experiment, gather some feedback, learning from whatever we are going to learn, and then repeat. There is three possible directions. The first one is to pivot, because you're running experiments, learning something new, and you decide to change the direction entirely. The second thing is just to say, okay, I'm going to iterate, because I've learned something new. I'm going to use it and run one more experiment, so that I can clear the air and just be more confident in the process. And finally, you can kill the thing and just stop working and wasting your time and the time of your company and money. How we manage within that domain is by collaboration. So it's like somebody who is super familiar with the business context, and you have to invite one more guy who is super creative and smart and sharp. And that balance between the one who is familiar with the business and the one who is going to help you be creative enough to create a brave experiment and run something crazy so that you can find new insights and maybe find the solution. It's super important, that balance. And finally, you have to be open for new discussions. Again, you don't have to be confident because you're operating under the complex domain. There we are. Here is the quick depiction. You don't have the traditional research. You're not going to use a generative research or evaluative research. You're just running cycles. Like, first we need to build something super quickly, and then using AI, of course. And then we can measure the outcome and finally decide what to do so that we can move forward. And finally, there is a chaotic domain, novel practices, there is no model. You have to rely on managers. If there is a messy situation, you don't have to sound super confidently. You don't act at all. By yourself, I mean, if you're not confident enough. So it's all about decision makers. There is an example from the real world. If your house is burning, you're not gonna die in the house and run experiments with electricity or just ask your neighbors through the windows what's going on with my house. It's more about going outside, do whatever you have to do so that you can stop or at least manage the situation and then decide what to do. To run the experiments with the electricity, see what's wrong, and then find some insights or collect feedback. So, why I'm sharing with you, why I'm talking about this model? Because Cynefin is a good way of sense-making tool. It's a sense-making tool or decision-making device. I saw on social medias these days that a lot of frameworks are dead. Double Diamond is dead. Waterfall approach is super old school. We are not going to use them. We are going to use AI only. That's not true. We have to find the best possible way to pick the right process and just be more efficient from the very beginning. Invite people. Use Cynefin. It's a kid's game, like having a simple visualization. You can start thinking about it, like 15 minutes, I don't know. That's fair enough. Yeah, AI changed the tools, but not the need for sense-making. A lot of designers are just using AI tools and making something super fast. But we need to slow down a little. We have to start thinking one way or another. And finally, in the age shaped by AI, clarity is still human work. So that's it. Thank you.
So, this was a great speech. Thank you very much. What color is your belt at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now?
Prize for you. Almost purple.
Almost purple.
A lot of stripes on my blue belt.
Okay, good. That's great. I always find someone here talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I'm very thankful to... Yeah, Tsetso, join me. So Tsetso Nikolov didn't bother to say your name. I butchered Jimmy's name in the beginning, which I apologize for. Any questions for Tsetso? We have 5 minutes before we head into our well-deserved lunch break. There you go.
Okay.
Do we have a mic for the questions, please? As we have a stream as well, so we'll be very happy to have them recorded. Yep. They're going to turn it on. Don't worry, Jimmy.
Microphone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks. If you're working in a team with developers who are used to mostly experimenting, so to the complex, what you explained.
Why they do this all the time? That's so strange.
I guess that's just how they are, but my question is, how do you decide and when can you be confident to advise them to instead implement a more linear approach if you feel that in that situation it would be more fitting?
Exactly. This is why I'm just throwing that provocation to the table and just saying that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to all of our problems. But in most companies, people are just, you know, they have a rigid structure, they have teams, they work agile, they have to be super fast, don't spend money on stupid things, but they always work on something that is, how I can say it, отвъд необходимото. So this is why we have Canevin. You can use it. Like, if you're feeling confident enough to do something by yourself based on best practices, then you're not waiting for deep sprints, spending 2 weeks to produce something that nobody gonna use. Or maybe we will use it, nobody knows. So just use that visualization, that model. Just take your 15 minutes with your team, talk to your stakeholders, shareholders, I don't know, and just try to find the best possible way to at least open a discussion. That's the only way. Otherwise, it's gonna, imagine you have to build a registration page. And there we are, we have a sprint. Let's burn some time. Let's work for a month to build that simple thing. I know that's not the perfect example, but there is a lot of tasks that need to be just executed and save some time so that you can invest that time in other parts of the product. Otherwise, it's going to be just an expensive way of working, losing people's time, making things super complex instead of just do whatever you have to do.
Love it. Another one? Testing and iterating. Oh, Ivan has a question.
Please.
One lecture to the other. Guys, raise the mic, please. No. Yeah, keep talking. Just keep talking. Just keep talking.
Can you give some very simple examples of each domain? For example, what would be traditional knowledge, what would be an experiment, what would be a chaos?
Yeah, of course. I will start with the clear one.
Can you repeat the question so people on the video can hear it?
He's asking me to give an examples for each domain. So, for example, the clear one is about building exactly this, sign-up page, a registration page, or something that it's more time-consuming, like building a messenger app. There is a lot of examples how you can build this. You don't need to run a beginner sprint or run a research how to design and structure your layout in terms of UI when you have to build a messenger app. Or something even more complex, not complex, but time-consuming, is building an entirely new experience for, I don't know, maybe an app that it's a mindfulness journaling app. There is a button, you have to click that button and then do whatever you have to do so that you can give a good example of good feedback about your thoughts, for example. This is a clear domain. This is the clear domain. When it comes to the complicated domain, it might be a navigation. There is a lot of examples how to build a navigation, but you don't know exactly how to structure that navigation. Of course, there is a vertical or horizontal navigations, but you need to add research so that you can ask your customers or users and chase them for insights, like a raw insights, so that you can transform these insights into recommendations and structure your navigation. Otherwise, it's going to be a huge mess. You're just going to buy a UI style guide about a navigation and just place that navigation into your product. It's going to be a huge mess. And for the complex domain, I have an example right now, a practical example with our product. It's called UX Report. And we need to find a way to scan a web page and then throw just a few insights, what's wrong with your web page. And it feels like if I just start asking people based on research and user interviews what to do, so that I can create that AI tool that scans your page, it's going to be a huge fail. Because people are not going to solve your problems. They're not going to tell you what you have to do so that you can solve the problem. So this is why we are running experiments. This is why we are spending, let's say, 2 weeks to go through that challenge and build a couple of small features that we can test it and then decide if that works or not. Everything related to AI, most of the time, it should be an experiment.
Thank you.